Resolution commending child forensic interviewer Tracy Nix upon her retirement of 25 years with the County of San Luis Obispo. And I'd ask Dan Dow to come up to the podium, and Ms. Nix, if you could, and your family. And Supervisor Arnold is going to do the honors.
And it is an honor to be able to read this resolution to Tracy today. It's a resolution commending Tracy Nix for 25 years of service with the County of San Luis Obispo. And whereas Tracy Nix has worked for the County of San Luis Obispo since December 1996, encompassing 25 years of employment. And whereas she was hired as a social worker, coming to the County of San Luis Obispo with a wealth of experience, having previously served as a social worker in Tuolumne County, California, and whereas while serving as a social worker with the County of San Luis Obispo Child Welfare Services, Ms. Nix was responsible for sexual abuse investigations involving intrafamilial molestation, and whereas she was sought after by the County of San Luis Obispo District Attorney's Office to bring her experience as a social worker specializing in child advocacy and child forensic interviews, and whereas she was a leading force in creating the County of San Luis Obispo's child abuse interview team protocol, bringing multiple resources together in advocacy of child victims. And whereas she conducted over 200 child forensic interviews in a given year, and an estimated 3,000 interviews during her career as a child forensic interviewer that led to the successful prosecution of hundreds of child abusers. And whereas she continually improved our child abuse prosecution program through training and collaboration with local law enforcement agencies and implementing a Spanish-speaking child forensic interview, and whereas her difficult and passionate work subjected her to an immense amount of secondary trauma and compassion fatigue, to which she responded by gracefully, resiliently, and tirelessly continuing her important work. And whereas she expanded her service to the community through volunteer work, including serving as the 2007 chair of the Board of Directors of the Sexual Assault Recovery and Prevention Center in San Luis Obispo. And whereas Tracy Nix's remarkable expertise, dedicated service, and commitment to the well-being of children in San Luis Obispo County resulted in the intervention for and protection of countless vulnerable children in our community. Now therefore be it resolved and ordered that the Board of Supervisors, the County of San Luis Obispo, State of California, that Tracy Nix be and hereby is commended for her 25 years of compassionate service in support of and her advocacy for the child victims of crime in San Luis Obispo County. Be it also resolved that Tracy Nix is wished the best of health, happiness, and good fortune in her retirement and beyond.
First of all, Mr. Chair, board members, and Tracy, most of all, I couldn't be more pleased than to be here today and to see you recognized so appropriately for such a long lifetime of service to our community. You know, we talked earlier about the resources of our county, and we've got things that help our economy, but there's no more valued and precious treasure of our county than our children. And there's no one that knows that more than Tracy Nix. Through her work, doing everything she can as a part of our investigative team to create an environment of trust, to create an environment that reduces fear, that reduces trauma, and that allows a child who has suffered either physical, emotional, or sexual abuse to be able to sit with her and know that a person who is friendly, who is calm, who is loving, because you can see it in her eyes, is there. And she develops trust with these children and allows them to tell their story. Oftentimes, if the first responder goes to the scene and speaks with a child, they clam up, they don't know what to say, they're scared. Here's a police officer, a person in a uniform with a badge. And so it's so critically important that we have our child forensic interview team, which was pioneered by Tracy. As we were able to, times before me, our office was able to hire Tracy away from social services to provide us with a program in our office in order to fully and following the best practices, be able to serve the vulnerable youth of our community. And the numbers I think that we put in that resolution are conservative. I know personally that there were years when she did over 300 of these interviews. Some years there were more than others. And I know that during a pandemic, for instance, there was less reported. And so there was probably a lot more abuse happening that was not reported because the teachers were not there and interacting with children in a way to spot it. And so some years the numbers were maybe falsely lower than others, but Tracy has, I believe, been uniquely created and equipped to deal with such a difficult job. There are very few that would even be able to enter her profession. I know of none that could sustain it with the commitment and the desire to touch the lives of the children. And the resolution talks about the secondary trauma. You know, she's a saint in my book because of being able to hear things that none of us want to hear. But what drove Tracy was a desire to be able to start a healing process for children, start to develop a pathway for healthy living for these children, whether that meant removing an abuser from their home or another trusted person out of their life through prosecution or other methods through child services. Tracy has been unwavering in her passion and commitment for the welfare of our children. And I am so pleased to have known you and to work with you both as a deputy district attorney and then as the DA. And I want to thank you publicly for coming to me and saying we need to make this a bigger program. We need to add in a Spanish forensic interviewer because we had to use interpreters and that's not as effective. And so it was Tracy's continuous vision for improving our child forensic interview program that brought us to where we are today. And Tracy, our community, the children of our community, the parents, we all owe you a debt of gratitude and thanks for what you have done. And so on behalf of our office, we also have a piece of glass here that says, presented to Tracy Nix in recognition of your outstanding service to the children of San Luis Obispo County and to the Office of the District Attorney as C.A.I.T Program Manager from 1997 through 2023.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to all of you and to everyone who had a hand in this and who took the time to recognize the C.A.I.T program. It means more to me than I can express in words. Thank you to the Board of Supervisors. Thank you to District Attorney Dan Dow, to Assistant District Attorney Eric Dobroth, I don't know if he's here, to my Chief DA Investigator Terry O'Farrell, and to the amazing group of committed professionals that I was honored to work with. This group included Deputy District Attorneys, the C.A.I.T forensic interviewers, victim advocates, social service workers, DA investigators, the clerical staff who had to transcribe every single word of those horrific interviews, and the many detectives and patrol officers that it was my great privilege to have worked with throughout the years. Regardless of their title or position, what they all had in common was their conviction and their commitment to serving the most vulnerable members of our community. I was often asked how I could continue to do the work that I did, and my answer was, how could I not? Because I always remembered the words of my dear friend, Deputy District Attorney Larry Green, who after a particularly long interview, when we were all kind of griping and complaining about the hours we had to sit there, he looked at us and said, "It's not about you, it's about the survivor." And if for 1 hour someone felt safe, seen, heard, and believed in my office, then I was successful. But the reality is this: I learned so much about resilience, strength, and the power to forgive from the individuals I interviewed, and they are truly my heroes. And to those of you who are still working, please don't ever forget to take care of yourself. It may sound cliche, but in order to help others, you have to first help yourself. debrief your cases, check in with each other, and never, ever be afraid to ask for help. I love you all. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
See if there's any additional public comment. We will close public comment then, bring it back to the board. Supervisor Arnold.
Tracy, I just want to say thank you to someone that I haven't spent a lot of time with, but you've been here all these years, and with probably, I'm guessing, one of the toughest jobs imaginable. I've said it before on this dais before I got involved in politics. I owned a preschool up in Atascadero, and I worked there 12-hour days for 17 years with children 2 to 5 years old. And my takeaway from all those years, I really believe that children respond to adults. They respond to honesty and kindness, and they don't respond when they don't feel, I don't think, when they see those two traits coming through. So Dan used the word treasure, and I had that exact word in my head before I even read the resolution. You have a gift, and I'm sure other people have said that too. You have a gift to be able to have children respond to you positively, and you've been a treasure, and you've stuck with it for so many years. And I could hear it in your voice when things are hard. I mean, what keeps you going? The work that you believe in, the people you work with, and your family. And I wanted to say that especially because you go home to your family, and I don't know, I didn't have your job, but I think it would have been hard to continue without that, without the family that you have and the home that you created. So the county's been blessed to have you all these years, and the work that you've done, and I just want to say thank you from the very bottom of my heart for all.
Supervisor Paulding.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Tracy, for all the work that you've done for the county. I can't imagine what you've had to go through, but you obviously stuck to it and did the hard work, and what a legacy of public service. You've earned your retirement. Please do enjoy it.
Supervisor Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tracy, I can't think of any higher calling than to seek justice and healing for children. And this county has a number of difficult jobs. Yours, to me, is at the top of the list. What strikes me as I've listened today is your courage in confronting the worst of humanity and the determination to do something about it. So my thanks, along with all the rest of our communities, for everything you've done, and indeed, enjoy your retirement.
Supervisor Ortiz.
Thank you. We just taken by your speech about you know what your life was like, and just continuing to persevere. You're an exemplary example of a public servant. Oftentimes people say, well, why do you do it? And everything that you just demonstrated here is why, because you care, because you wanted to make a difference, and you have, and you're reaching out to your fellow associates in their ability to take care of themselves, and how important that is. And it just, you know, from the bottom of my heart, just say thank you to those for everything that you've done, and for the Spanish-speaking folks, and recognizing how important it is for them to be able to express themselves in their language and be heard, and all of that for the survivors. So here's to you and your many happy years of retirement.
And I'd also like to thank you for all your hard work, but your empathy for this community. I believe it does make you one of those angels of San Luis Obispo County. So thank you.